Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. This is podcast number 22. Today we're going to continue the journey down Google Ventures Design Sprint. We're looking specifically at building out the prototype, which is Thursday. I'm your innovator. This is Nevada Smith, and you're listening to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. Welcome back to the Innovating a Game Changer podcast. I'm your innovator. This is Nevada Smith, and today we're going to continue our journey looking at Google Ventures Design Sprint. This is Thursday. This is the most exciting day for my technical people in the room, and I'm going to take you through some hints and tips about exactly what it is that you should be doing to get the most out of this particular day. Again, all this information can be found at googleventures.com or gv.com/sprint. That's the place where you start. So take a look at that. There's a ton of videos out there as well. So I normally take my sessions through those videos. So really take a look at that. All the information is out there. And of course, get the book, Sprint, How to Solve Big Problems and Test Ideas in Just 5 Days. I also call this an abandonment, right? So if we take a look at it, we're trying to either probably three ways. We're trying to either abandon the idea at the end of the 5 days before we've grown attachment to it. And I'll talk a little bit about why we grow attachment to it. I've seen so many startups actually attach themselves to an idea. They don't have customer value. They don't have a viable product that they're going out to the market with. They've really not done anything in the market as far as testing the idea, and they've gone all in and they've built out a product. And typically what you find is that's the reason why startups fail, because they haven't gone out to the market and tested that idea. So again, design sprints get you there very, very quickly. You're going to know if you should abandon the idea. So I'm all about abandoning bad ideas, moving on and going to the next one. And if you've just spent 5 days, that's a lot less than spending 12 months doing a startup, getting investment, burning through the investment and not being able to do it. The second thing that may come out of this is the customer loves it and you move forward with the idea, and we're going to find that out on Friday. And then the third one is the customer kind of likes it, they kind of use it, and they're going to give you a bunch of feedback on Friday, and that's going to help you actually build out a particular product that they're actually after. So again, go out to gv.com/sprint. That will give you the layouts of these things. We're looking at each of the checklists as we've been going through this series. And a little bit about yesterday. If you haven't watched that, please go back to Wednesday. This is really a series that starts on Monday. So make sure you watch them all through to get the most out of this podcast series. It's really important that you understand the whole thing. So on Wednesday, what we did is we created the storyboard, and we put our screens within that storyboard as we went through. So we're really looking at the customer journey, looking at the customer value, identifying the gaps, identifying possible places of innovation that we're trying to put forward there. And so we've already done that work on Wednesday. And today is really about building this thing out. Now, typically, I've got IT organizational people in my room. That's how I build these things out. I've also got some business people in the room as well, going through these design sprints. But because I do have that ability to have the IT people, I can build very, very rich, interactive designs for the prototype. And I normally have a UX person in there as well, so they can obviously utilize Power, so Photoshop or another editing tool to get those experiences really, really rich. So the first thing you want to do on a Thursday, of course, is go through the agenda. And it talks about picking the right tools. I use Invision, and I also use a tool that allows me to export from Invision and put it onto the mobile application, either an iOS device or an Android device. Those are the things that I'm actually driving towards. Typically, I'm in the space where I'm dealing with mobile applications, and that's typically what I do. If it's a web-based tool, Invision allows you to do that as well. Again, I've got IT individuals in the room. They pick up those toolings very, very quickly. So some of the things you got to worry about is you're going to try and build too much here, right? So you've got to really focus on getting this prototype, getting these screens done as quickly as possible. And the way to do that is you build a facade. So in the book, the Sprint book from Google Ventures, they talk about the facade of a old Western, and everything looks real, but behind the scenes, these are just facades of buildings. So, they walk into the old saloon, and it's nothing more than just clapboarding and held up by, some sticks. So it's all smoke and mirrors. And I keep reiterating that throughout the day, because you'll start to see people go off on tangents and try to be pixel perfect, and that's not the intention here. The intention is to get a realistic design out to the customer, get a realistic experience so they can actually test it. And again, keep going back to the storyboard, because that's really your customer journey. You want to make sure that you're flowing through that particular customer journey as you go through. So this can be uncomfortable, so just reassure everybody that it doesn't need to be perfect, and try to get them to move on. As the facilitator, that's your job to do that. And again, you want to just do what they call a Goldilocks, which is actually out here, right, down to the bottom, a Goldilocks quality. So just enough that you need to get it right. You don't want too much and too little, and that's why they use the term Goldilocks out here. So at one of the other important things at 10 a.m. is you want to divide and conquer. I've typically got 5, 6, 7 people in the room, so I've now split the screens up between those people there to work on those individually. We start off the session with an agreement on color set and tooling that we're going to use, along with a standard design that we're trying to adhere to, so that, again, it flows all the way through. Typically, I'm utilizing a documentation from our previous tools that keep those prototypes together, so everybody on the team is familiar with the styling and the interaction experience that we're looking for here, and they typically steer close to that. If they don't, then we bring them back on track, and we have everybody chip in. Lunch, again, is very, very important. You go out of the room, right? You make sure that again, if you can get outside and it's a great day, go out there and have a picnic type lunch on wherever you want to go, lay out a blanket or whatever. Get people out of the room, go for a walk. It's very, very important. Make sure that also that those individuals are eating very, very healthy at this point. You don't want your energy to go down. Okay, so by the time we come back at 2 o'clock, we clean up the rest of the prototype screens that we've been working on, and we start to stitch them together. Make sure that it follows the storyboard that we put through, and again, focusing in on the customer value here. The idea is to make sure you can get through your prototype in 15 minutes when you're actually putting it in front of the customer. So keep that in mind as you go through. At 3 o'clock, we're trying to do a trial run at this point. So the prototype should be together by 3 o'clock. Typically, I'm running 3:45 or 4 o'clock to get this thing, right? So we're trying at this point to take a look at where the problem areas are in, where it deviated from the storyline, and making sure that we're getting that feedback and adjusting it as necessary. If you're using a tooling, you want to hammer on that thing really, really quickly. You want to click all over the screens to make sure that there's no errors going to come up, and you want it to be seamless. You want to make sure that the clickable areas that you're putting onto this prototype are actually clickable and that it flows through, and where they don't, you go back and finish it. And again, test run, right? So have everybody download it onto their device and test it. I typically like to see individuals go up and actually demonstrate it to the rest of the group. That helps as well. Typically, our prototype day runs a little bit long because we're doing everything to clean it up, getting ready for the Friday test. So throughout the day, the facilitator is also going out there and making sure that the interview script is completed. We'll talk a lot about interview scripts tomorrow for the Friday test, but there's a scripting process that I utilize. There's a great scripting process inside of the sprint book that tells you how to do that as well. There's a ton of ideas out there on YouTube that you can go there as well. I'm also calling the customers, texting the customers, and emailing the customers to make sure that they come in. Again, we're trying to get as many customers that we can into that period of time. Typically 5 or 6 of those individuals, and we want to make sure that they show up. And you want to have a couple of on-hold candidates as well to make sure that you can call those guys in. So for the customers that come in, we typically give them a $100 gift card, $75 or $100 gift card. For those people that we've got on call that didn't need necessarily make it in, we send them an e-gift card for $25 just for basically being on call for us. You want to try and use different customers. So if you're going through a design sprint over and over again, which I do, you want to make sure that you use different customers each time, because that feedback's going to be coming back. The prototype mindset is really about making sure that these prototypes are disposable, so building just enough to learn but not more, and you want to make sure that they've got the Goldilocks quality, which again is building just enough. So this is really where you've ended on Thursday, but again, practice. Make sure that the prototype is absolutely solid. So that's really it for Thursday. So tomorrow we'll go through Friday and what you get out of that from a customer journey perspective. It's going to be a lot longer. So again, you've been listening to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. This is Nevada Smith. I'm your innovator. I hope you enjoy these podcasts. If you do, please leave a comment below. If you've got any ideas for future podcasts, please let me know. If you want me to speak or do any sort of training or anything, please reach out to me on Instagram or the YouTube channel, or you can always find me on LinkedIn. I will respond to any messages that I get on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining me. You've been listening to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. This was your innovator, Nevada Smith, and this was Google Ventures Design Sprint Thursday.